Hello, good afternoon. I'm Abba Perelmuter, and this is Torah Study with Rabbi P, where once a week we get together for an hour of inspirational learning, where we go through the Torah and the deep cuts here, so we get some inspiration on how to live our lives. We are here in Long Beach, California. It's a beautiful day here, and I want to give a shout out to my friends that are sitting with us. Come on, say hello, everyone. There you go. It's a very lively crowd over here. So we'll see. Let's get going. Anyways, last time we met, we had Abraham and Isaac going up a mountain. Abraham had the wood and the fire. Isaac was wondering who's going to be the sacrifice. Shortly he finds out that it was going to be him, but Abraham, of course, does not sacrifice Isaac. He passes the test and we move on. Now we've come to the situation where Sarah passes away. The Torah tells us that Sarah, the beloved wife of Abraham and the mother of Isaac, passes away at the age of 127 years old, and the rabbis want to make the juxtaposition, because the story comes and then her death comes right after the story, that somehow it was connected. That, Sarah had heard that Abraham was going to take her beloved Isaac and sacrifice him. This caused her tremendous anguish, and she passed away. So Abraham then has to go buy a plot. We know about the Moris HaMachpelah, we know about the cave of the patriarchs that still exists today in Hebron, and you could go up there, and Abraham and Sarah are both buried there, and he pays good money for it, even though they offer him for free. Abraham says, no, I'm not a man that wants to have gifts, I want to pay, and he pays 400 shekel, which in today's day and age with inflation, over a time would be, I don't know, at least $7 or $8. That he pays for the cave, over the length of time, and then it becomes his possession, and he buries Sarah and he mourns her. Now, here's Abraham's left alone, and he looks at his window one day and he sees, in the fields, there's Isaac, and he's tending the flock, and he's taking care of business, he's his manager, and he thinks to himself, okay, what's wrong with this picture? He's alone. Never had time to date. He's been busy going up a mountain, down a mountain. All of this stuff, but he never dated. So Abraham says, okay, you know what? It's time that we get him married. The man is already old enough. He's about 40 years old. He's lived at home. I took care of him. Let's find him a shidduch. But now, where do you find a shidduch? To find a Jewish girl at that time and in that place is very difficult. Why? Because they're the only Jews. Right? They're the only Jews. So Abraham has to figure out, okay, I'm going to have to do something. I want to keep this thing going, this experiment with Jews going, and Isaac is going to be the successor, of this. So I got to find out where we're going to go. So he calls his most trusted servant Eliezer, and he says to Eliezer, look, you got to go find me a girl for Isaac. I can't send him out into the world. You know what? He's pure, he's innocent. Whatever the circumstances are, you go find me a girl. And here are the criteria. One thing is, I don't want a girl from these surrounding areas. I don't want a Canaanite girl. As he says in the book, if you're going to follow with me, on page 111, he says, and I want you to swear by God, heaven, that you will not take a wife for my son from the daughters of the Canaanites among whom I dwell. Rather, to my land and to my kindred shall you go and take a wife for my son, for Isaac. So Abraham gives them instructions that he says that I want you to take a girl and find a nice girl for me, my son, and I don't want you to take any girl that's going to live around here in this area, but I want you to travel back to where I come from, to where he says over here, and you go and take a wife from the land and my kindred. There you go and get a girl. And then Eliezer goes, but what if she doesn't want to come? What if I can't find? He says, okay, you know what? As long as you don't take him back to there, I don't want Isaac leaving this place. If you can't find a girl, then okay, you can't find a girl, and it's over. Then the vow, but you have to swear to me that you're going to do this. And if you can't find a girl, then the vow is nullified, and we're good to go. Okay? So it doesn't give him much instructions, but he tells him he wants a girl from his homeland, and not he doesn't want a Canaanite girl. Okay, so let's think this through just a second, because there's a lot to unpack over here. Number one, what's he worried about? He's worried that since his entire life he's been dedicated to the idea of monotheism, that this is what Abraham brought into the world, that you know what, the rest of the world was idolaters, and the rest of the world were pagans, and no one worshipped God except him. So he wants to find a girl that's going to be like-minded, with Isaac, right? It's very difficult to find here in Canaan. So what he does is he tells Eliezer, okay, I want you to go back to my, where I was, Aram Narayim, go back to where my birthplace was, or wherever I used to live, and then, you're going to find a girl for him there. Oh, really? Is that the case? Is that so? So if we look into the history of Abraham's family, you know that every once a year we have what's called a Seder. The Seder, take place. You crack open the Haggadah. What do we say? Rami Yovid Avi, that our grandfather, Terach was what? An idol worshiper. And Abraham's father was an idol worshiper, and so was his brother Nachar. His brother Haran, if you remember, died, but he was left one living brother was Nachar. Nachar, had the granddaughter, Rivka, had a son Pesuel, and they were all what? Idolaters. So why is he sending him there for? I mean, that's a good question, right? It's an excellent question. He says, absolutely, I don't want you to take the girls from Canaan, but I want you to take the girls from where I used to live, from my homeland, where I used to live. But there's no difference. I mean, the girls here are idolaters, the girls there are idolaters. His brother was an idolater. And then if you talk about racial purity, let's say Abraham thought to himself, I got to take it for that. But there is no racial purity in Judaism. In Judaism, anybody's welcome, right? Do we block anybody out from Judaism? Absolutely not, right? We have all different types of Jews around the world, right? We have Ashkenazim Jews, we have Sephardic Jews, we have Yemenite Jews, we have orange Jews, tomato Jews, all different types of Jews. We have cardiac Jews that feel Jewish. We have gastronomical Jews, that people that only eat Jewish food. We have all different types of Jews around the world. There's no such thing as racial purity within Judaism. So it couldn't be that Abraham said, no, I want a girl from my family because we're better than everybody else. We're not better than anybody else, because anybody could come into Judaism. Where we have open arms as long as you follow the rules and regulations. You're in. Fine. So that could not have been his idea of sending Eliezer there. So why did he take this bother, of sending Eliezer to a faraway place outside of the borders of Israel to take a wife, for Isaac? Which is a question that commentators ask, and this is where we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about. All right. So Abraham sits down and makes a cheshbon, he makes an accounting of what kind of a daughter-in-law he wants. Okay? He knows that it's not going to be easy to find a wife for him, because he's not living in Borough Park. If we were living in Borough Park, New York right now, 250,000 Jews there, you could find a girl. You put up a sign, Isaac needs a wife, and you tell everybody, hey, I got a dowry of $1 million. You'll have a line out the door. You don't have to worry. There you'll find something. But in those days, that was not the case. So Abraham sits down and starts to think to himself, okay, what is going to be the criteria of a girl that Isaac is going to marry? So he breaks it down into two categories. There are deficiencies in people. People all have deficiencies, right? We're not talking about physical deficiencies, because she's going to be beautiful no matter what. You know that, right? Because everybody that gets married in the Bible to one of the heroes is beautiful. Sarah was beautiful, right? Rivka, beautiful. Rachel, a knockout, right? They're all beautiful. So that we're not talking about physical beauty. Not talking about physical beauty. We're talking about spiritual beauty here. Now, how do you attain spiritual beauty? So Abraham sits down and thinks to himself like this. There's two types of faults that people have. I mean, I know it's hard for you to listen to this because you're perfect, but really in this class there's only one person that's perfect, and I'm not going to tell you who it is, but you're looking at him. Okay, thank you. That's what my mother said about me. I'm perfect, right? What a son. I'm perfect. So we have deficiencies. Okay, we have deficiencies. Everybody has benefits. Everybody has good things about them, and then people have bad things about them as well. when you're making a cheshbon nefesh, when you're making an accounting, like for example before Rosh Hashanah, we try to sit down and we try to figure out, what are some of the bad things that we've done, what are the things that we can better ourselves with. All of these things, we make what we call a cheshbon nefesh. We make an accounting, right? You also have to figure into the accounting positive things, not only the negative things, because everybody in the world has positive traits, but we have negative traits. Now here's the key. The negative traits break down into two parts. And here's where this is where Abraham is going to make a decision. There is what we call character traits, and then there's beliefs. There's a belief system. What are some of, let's say for example, if I asked you, give me an example of a character trait that a person has, you would say cruelty, right? Cruelty is a character trait, meaning the person is cruel. This is something that comes from his character. What's another example of a character trait? Hatred comes a character trait. Stinginess is a character trait.
Honesty.
I beg your pardon?
Honesty. Honesty
is a character trait on the better side, on the good side. But we're going to stick to the negative today because we're trying to make a point. Slander. People that like to talk about gossipers. That's a character trait, right? Immorality. A person that's immoral. And we could talk a little bit about morals, a bit later on. But a person that's not moral, like, dishonesty, like, Jay said, honesty, dishonesty, revenge, vengeance, a person that's vengeful, that's a character trait. On the opposite side, and those are terrible, terrible traits to have, and they're sins, right? They're sins. What's on the other end of, what's the second part of a person's negative, is what we call beliefs and ideas. What would be a belief and an idea? Idolatry. Idolatry is not a character trait. Idolatry is a belief. It's a system of what you believe in. For example, in America, there are people that believe in ghosts. Right? Like, take an example. Anybody here in this room believe in ghosts?
No. I used to.
You used to? No? A little. There are some heads. You don't have to be ashamed if you believe in ghosts. You believe in ghosts. But there are people in them. Okay, let me think another thing. Who believes in angels? And angels, but if you believe in angels, then you believe that there are supernatural beings, around. That's a belief system, right? Like, we believe that you have a soul. You can't prove that you have a soul. You never weighed your soul. The doctor has never said, oh, you know what, you got to eat less because your soul is deficient. That doesn't go out. That doesn't work that way, right? These are all what we call. This is part of what we would call our belief system. Ideas. We have ideas about the world. Political ideas. We may hold political ideas in the world. So these are two avenues that a person has deficiencies in. One of them is a character traits, and the other one what we would call belief and ideas. And idolatry obviously falls into that category. That's a deficiency. It's bad. We don't believe in idolatry. We believe in monotheism. Abraham sat down and he made what we call a cheshbon. He made an accounting. He says, okay, let's do this. What I want in a daughter-in-law is I know that she's going to be tainted with one of these things. There's nothing to talk about. Because idolatry was prevalent in those days. Everybody believed in idolatry, and everybody was a pagan. So no matter who she is, she's going to be raised in a family of pagans. That's the way it's going to be. Okay. That, Abraham said, I could live with. I could live with that. Why? Why can I live with that? Because that's something that we can work on. We could work on, like slowly but surely. We have ideas. I mean, when you were young, let's say, for example, when you were young, and someone said to you about a boogeyman, you believed it, right? You believed there's a boogeyman, or the tooth fairy. If you found, today they give $1 for a tooth. In my days, it was a nickel. Now, you see, the good thing is, when you get older, your teeth start falling out now. Now you're going to get $5 for your teeth. Back in those days, you only got a nickel. Today, so don't feel bad, seniors. Your teeth fall out, put them under your pillow, and the tooth fairy will come for $5, right? We'll give you $5 for your teeth. But the thing is, he does not pay for dentures, by the way. I found that out. Does not pay for dentures, only for real teeth. All right? So when you were young, you believed in a tooth fairy. Now I ask you, do you believe in a tooth fairy? Now, don't answer that question, because watch, everybody picks up their hand. Yes, Okay, you don't believe in a tooth fairy. You see, because belief and ideas change over time. We change. When you're younger, you have all these belief things that come and go and come and go and come and go. So belief and ideas are interchangeable, and you know what? It's not that hard. It's not that hard. No, even though you may have had this belief like for many years, but you know what? You grow older, you mature, you see the world from a different perspective. All of these things, and those ideas and beliefs are malleable. We call them malleable. They change. On the other end of the spectrum, when we talked about character traits, that's not so easy. That's not so easy. If a person is vengeful, if they have this character trait that they need to take revenge, that they're always in a fighting mode, can they change and become a calm, loving person? Yes, but you know how much work this needs? This needs a tremendous amount of work. I mean, you have to literally, every single day. Let's not take vengeful. Let's take something that's more common. Anger. We know that there are people that have an anger issue. An anger issue. Now, what is an anger issue? An anger issue is really what we would call a control. It's a control issue. Because when you're angry, everybody's on edge, and that's the way you control. So if I came in here every week and I was angry, you'd all behave unlike you do now. You see that you don't behave. But if I was angry every week and I started to scream at David, hey David, can't you behave? All right? David would sit every week and he'd be nice and he'd bring me an apple every once in a while, which he never does. But nonetheless, I'm not asking. Okay, fine. Okay? But that's something, an anger issue is you literally have to fight every single day. You have to tell yourself, like Maimonides, who's our favorite Ashkenaz, our favorite, Sarah already has an apple ready to throw at me. Okay, I'm sorry, Sarah. Our favorite Sephardic, philosopher and this. And Maimonides says, for anger, you got to go the opposite end of the spectrum. If you want to change, if you're an angry person and you have that trait, you can't go 50-50, but you have to literally bend all the other way. Never get angry, no matter what someone does to you. So if I take a cup of coffee and I pour it on you, and you're working on your anger issue, all you have to do is you sit there and say, thank you very much, Rabbi. I really appreciate it. I needed a shower. Thank you. All right? It takes tremendous amount of effort. I mean, it's almost, it's not impossible. People have changed their character, but if you're one of these that has anger or you're stingy, I'm in the business of fundraising. That's the bane of my existence. Okay, when you're a Chabad rabbi, part of it is you have to go out into the world and what we would call in Ladino, schnorring. Right? Is that Ladino? Is it? Yeah, schnorring. Okay, so you know what? How do you do this? You break down your list and you start looking for the people, not with money. See, that's not the person you're looking for. What are you looking for? A person that gives. That's what you're looking for. You look down your list and you say, who are the givers in Shul? Not the ones with money. Now, if you're lucky, you put the two together. You have someone with money that is a giver, then you have yourself a home run. But if you have someone in Shul that has a lot of money but is not a giver, could you make him into a giver? Yes. Yeah, you can threaten them, you can cajole them, you can embarrass them, you can do a lot of things to them, but they're not going to ever become a generous person. They'll give it to you because they're forced to give it to you. Now, those people who are stingy, cheapos, we would call them, they could still work on themselves and become generous. But it's very, very, very difficult to do that. So here we're faced with a dilemma. You have now to pick a person, a friend, a neighbor, a spouse, whatever it is. You know that everyone in this world has deficiencies. There's no one that's perfect. There's no one. It's impossible to be perfect. What are you going to do? So you're going to now make a list of the things, character traits one side, beliefs and ideas on the other side, and you're going to say to the servant, this is what I want you to do. When you look for the girl, you see the list on A, out. I don't want the girl with any character flaws because those are impossible to fix. You see B, beliefs and ideas, I can live with that. So where are you going to go find that? So the people here in Canaan, character flaws. I know them too well, because you know what? They're not good people. They're not nice people in this town. Eventually, what's going to happen is God is going to give Canaan to the Jewish people, and he's going to tell them, to Moses, that what should he do with the indigenous people? Get rid of them. Don't allow them to live together with you. They're just not good people. And again, I say, they're not good people. Means they don't have good traits. They don't have good traits in themselves. Their beliefs and the other beliefs may be the same, but their character is rotten. Inside, they have no heart. Go to my family, because I know in my family, the extended family, they may be idolaters, yes, and they may be pagans, and the girl is going to be raised in a family of idolaters and all of that stuff, but the thing is, she's going to have good character traits. She'll be a good person. She'll be a good person. So even though that she may be a pagan, even though she may be, but that we can deal with. That's why Eliezer goes and he travels. That's why Abraham sends him out. And he says to him, if you can't find anybody there, it's over. Don't take my son there, because if the girl may say, here's a nice girl, everything nice, a good family, but she's not leaving home. Tell Isaac to come here. Abraham says no. He doesn't leave home. He stays here. God will send him a girl. If you can't find him, God will send him a girl. So two, don't take him there, and don't bring me a girl and don't get him a girl here. Go to my family, and then Hashem will make you succeed. That's why he sends him away. Okay. So you think to yourself, okay, so now what's the problem with B? Eliezer says to him, what if she doesn't want to come with me? Why don't I take Isaac there? She's a good girl, wonderful girl, has good character traits, everything, fine. Okay, she's a pagan, but you know what? So what? Everybody's pagan, but they don't trust Isaac. So Abraham says to him, listen, let me tell you something. And this is going to be a lesson for my children in the future. If you take Isaac out of this milieu and out of this comfort zone, what happens? He's surrounded with whom? Those kind of people, right? Pagans. So you have one guy that's around of pagans. If you bring her here, we got home field advantage. Home field advantage is extremely, extremely important in this. And you will see today, Mitzvah Hashem, if you have children or you're going to have children, you're going to see that generally the girls stay home. The girls stick to home. So you know what, if you have sons, and if you're looking for a shidduch, if you're looking for a marriage, my wife always said, please don't give me a girl from Australia. Why not? What's wrong with Australians? They're very nice people. Because good chances are she's going to live where? Australia. Even though she may say at first, no, I love California, it's great California, but down the line she's going to miss her mom and this and that, and then what's your son going to say? He's going to go with her. And if you think this is theoretical, I'll tell you it's not. Because I have 4 sons, and my second son, God bless him, started to date an Israeli. Don't ask me why. No, I love Israelis, but don't ask me why. He started to date an Israeli. Now, she was an Israeli/American, because her parents were American, so she spoke English perfectly. And I said to him, Moshe, you know that she's going to probably want to live in Israel. He said, no, she loves California. She's been to California. Oh, she loves California. You know where my son is living? He dated her. He fell in love with her. They married. Guess where he's living today? In California? Meh. Wrong. Guess where he's living? Israel. Okay? That's the way. And my 2 son-in-laws, guess where they're living? Here with my daughters. Okay, so that's the way it works. So Abraham knows that. He's a smart gentleman, Abraham. So he knows that if he allows Isaac to travel to Aram Naraim, to Haran, wherever he lived, he's taking him out of his milieu, and they're going to be the ones that are going to have the influence. Bring her here into our house, and she'll see a Shabbos table, lighting Shabbos candles, all of these things, keeping kosher, keeping the holidays. So there's a good, very, very, very strong chance that she's going to get influenced by us. So therefore, this is where Abraham tells Eliezer, don't take her there, and don't bring me a girl from there here. If by chance you don't find, then the oath is nullified and you're free and clear. Eliezer had a vested interest in putting up all these, because he kept saying to them, what if this, what if this, what if this? Because Eliezer had a daughter. See, the manager and his close servant had a daughter, And he always thought that, you know what, Abraham has a son, I got a daughter, I've been very loyal to him, and there's no one else around, and I've already been working here for years, he knows my family. But Abraham said, I'm sorry, you come from the wrong lineage. Eliezer came from the wrong tribe, and he said, it's not for my son. I like you, and I trust you, and you've been very loyal to me, but Baruch is Baruch, blessed is blessed, and non-blessed is non-blessed, and you come from a non-blessed tribe, so therefore, you know what, your daughter will find a nice guy, don't get me wrong, but not for my son. Not for my son. Then Eliezer asks him, but what about we have good guys here? Mamre, Eshkol, Oner. Abraham had good friends. He lived among these Canaanites that were good guys. They helped him in the war, and they supported him, and they as a matter of fact, when it came to the time for the circumcision, Abraham was a little, like 99. You'd also be a little, So his friends, Oner, Eshkol, and Mamre said, no, listen, this is a good thing. It's a good thing. They encouraged him to do the right thing. What about there? So the answer to that is, because I mentioned to you, he did not want the girl's family around, because even though that they were nice guys on the Eshkol and Mamre, but the extended family have one nice guy, and then you have the weird Uncle Harry, talking about that. For Thanksgiving, you're going to have Thanksgiving dinner. Be ready for your relatives to show up, okay? I'm just warning you. I'm not saying anything. Just be ready for your relatives to show up. So now Eliezer goes on a journey. He takes everything. He's got himself a little contract that says everything I own I give to Isaac. He has that piece of paper because that's going to be the clincher. That's going to be the closer. And he comes and he travels to Haran. He comes to this town, okay, to Haran. He comes to Haran and he comes in the late afternoon. The late afternoon was the time when everyone came out to water their cattle. They had sheep and this, so it wasn't hot during the day, and the cattle roamed during the day to eat, but now it was time to water them. And it seems from the Chumash that many of the people that watered the cattle were women. So it was a perfect time. Excellent. I'm here, I'm in Haran, this is where Abraham's family is living, his brother Nachor, other family members, and he says this to himself. He says, Dear God, I'm here on a mission. How am I going to know about the girl? How am I going to test the waters? So let me do this. Let me say this. The girl, I'm going to look around. I'm going to see someone that's beautiful. That's obvious. So physical beauty, okay, fine, check. Okay? But now I'm going to have to figure out the character traits. How am I going to know she's a good girl, not a good girl, a mean girl, a stingy girl? How am I going to find this out? So I'm going to do a little trick. I'm going to do a little test to her. I'm going to come to her when she has the water in her pitcher, and I'm going to say to her, excuse me, ma'am, can I have a drink? Now, like when you're feeding your camels or you're feeding your cattle or you're feeding this, you're busy. Then this nudnik comes along. You know what the nudnik is, right? The nudnik is the guy that's always mixing into business that is not his. He comes along, and why can't he get his own pitcher, this guy? He's a healthy guy. And he comes, so he's going to say to her, can I please have some water to drink? She's going to say back to me, not only am I going to let you drink, but you know what else I'm going to do for you? I'm going to water all of your animals. I see you've come with camels. I'm going to water all of your camels. That's how I'm going to know that this is the one, that this is for my... Easy, very simple. Okay, so he sits there. Before he even has a chance to finish thinking this thing through, guess who shows up? Rivka, beauty, a beautiful girl, and he doesn't know who her father is just yet, but he sees in her that this is that possibility. Okay, so he's going to go, okay, first turn. He goes down to her and he says to her, whatever he calls her, whatever your name is, ma'am, may I have something to drink? And she says to him, guess what? Not only will you drink, but I take my picture, I give you some water, and I'm going to now water all of your cattle, or all your camels that came with you. Home run. He can't believe it himself, because he starts to wonder, wow, how this was quick, right? The first girl knocked it out of the ballpark, said to her, now, why did he go to Rivka first? And why was he so sure that this is going to happen quickly? Because he saw something very interesting. In Abraham's house, he saw miracles happen. Like, the angels showed up, Abraham's talking to angels, Abraham, all these miracles. He goes, fights against 4 kings. So Eliezer knows that in Abraham's family, there is, people that miracles happen to them. So he sees something strange, that Rivka bends down and the water comes up to her. That's what the Talmud says. He sees that Rivka bends down and the water, she doesn't have to, the water comes out. He says, okay, this is something strange. Either it's been a very long trip, well, if you're in the desert and you're traveling a long distance and you haven't eaten and haven't drunk, you know what happens to you? What do you begin to see? Mirage. You get to see a mirage, right? You get to see oasis and this and that, a 7-Eleven. And there's no 7-Eleven in the Sahara Desert, but you begin to think about seeing it. So he may think to himself, wow, maybe I'm fatigued from the trip. So therefore he goes over to her and he puts her through this test. Test number 1, can I drink? And she says, yes, of course you can drink. Not only can you drink, but I'm going to also feed all of your cattle and you have nothing to worry about. Oh, wow. So the first thing he does is, very interesting, he takes out some gifts and he gives it to her. Bracelets, nose ring, and he gives it to her. Before even asking who she is. Because remember, she passed one criteria, she happens to be a good person. Okay, that's great. But the second criteria, we don't know. What's the second criteria? Is she a kinsman, right? Is she family? He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. So then he asks her. So first he gives her the presents. Then he asks her, okay, who are you? And let me know, is there a place at your father's house where I can spend the night? She says, let me answer first and second, which is a sign of a chacham, which is a sign of a wise person. Do you remember way back when we were studying Pirkei Avot? We were studying ethics of our sages. And one of the things, chapter 5, we went through, I'm sure you all remember this, right? With chapter 5, we went through 7 traits of a wise person and 7 traits of a goylem, of a not so wise person, of a simpleton. One of them is, when you're asked 2 questions, answer first, and answer second. Always, that's a sign of a wise person. Answer first, and then, so she asks, I'll tell you first who I am, and then I'll tell you, okay. So she says, I'm the daughter of Shul, sister of Lavan, Nachar, and all that. Family, Yitzchak's cousin. Okay, Yitzchak's cousin, fantastic. And she says, not only do we got plenty of place that for you to stay, for your animals, it's a deal. Let's go. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Now, I'm not shocked. Are you shocked? This is the Bible. Okay? Let's be honest. This is the Bible. This is the Torah. I'm not shocked. This is Abraham. I mean, Abraham is God's best salesman on earth, bar none. What Abraham wants, it says in the Talmud that when a righteous person decrees something, God does it for him because he's loyal to him. So we're not surprised that it went un, deux, trois, as they say in French. One, right? Am I right?
Un, deux, trois.
There you go. Okay. He thinks he speaks French, Sarah. Does he speak? Okay, fine, okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3, as they say in my homeland, Montreal, Quebec. 1, 2, 3, and the deal is done. Now, he gets over one hurdle. It's not set yet, because she's a daughter. She's not making her own decisions. He has to go through the parents. There's a brother. The brother, she comes home. She shows him the ring. Lavan, who we're going to meet later on. Oh, we're going to meet him later on. Boy. We're going to have a lot to talk about this guy Lavan. He sees that she got all of this grin. He runs out there to Eliezer. He says, come in. We have plenty of place for you to stay. Don't worry about it. He comes in. He tells the story. Listen. I don't want to be fed because they don't want to give him a meal. They see all the gold and jewelry. It's something again I said, Jay? Okay, there he is. See you later. See you later. See all of this jewelry and gold. They get very excited and they say, here's a meal. He says, look. I'm not here to eat. I'm not here I'm here to do a deal. And the deal is this. I have an objective. I came here to town to find a bride for my master's son, Isaac. Here is the star. Here's the paper that everything he has goes to Isaac. Okay? The only thing is, I'm not taking her against your will. So I saw her this morning, or whatever, beforehand, and when I gave her the test, she passed the test, and I think she's the right girl. Now tell me, are you willing to send her or no? They go, well, she's young, and send her far away. So Eliezer says, let's cut to the chase. Yes or no? So they say, okay, you know what? Let's ask her. Can't marry a woman against her will. So they call Rivka. They say to Rivka, are you willing to go? So Rivka says, I'm going. That's it. Whether you like or you don't like. This is my destiny. My destiny is to marry Isaac. I'm going. And the next thing you know, Eliezer gets on the camel with her. They go back down to Abraham's land. And from a distance, she sees Isaac in the field. She asks Eliezer, who's that handsome guy in the field that's working in the field? He says, that's
pure coincidence.
Pure coincidence. Pure coincidence. He was coming into the field, as he said. She looks at him down there, and she says, who's that man? He says, that's Isaac, your bashert, one that you're going to marry. She gets off of the camel, and she covers herself with a veil, because she's very modest. And then Eliezer tells Isaac everything that had happened to him, how he went there and he was at the well and he was wondering, is this the girl, not the girl? But then, you know what? It turned out to be the girl, and here she is. And Isaac, guess in those days, there were no big weddings. Abraham saved himself $100,000. There's no band, there's no photographer, there's no caterer, there's no hall that you have to rent. None of that. Isaac takes her and he brings her into his tent, and they marry, and Isaac then is comforted after Sarah, his mother, which is a beautiful way to end the story, because Isaac was extremely close to Sarah. There's nothing to talk about. He was the only son of Sarah, was extremely close to Sarah, and as long as Sarah had passed away, he was in a state of mourning. Now, even though he had Abraham as a father, that is true and all of that, but nonetheless he missed his mother. So he, would you like this answer? So now Nechama, the comfort came through Rebecca, and this fulfills one of the things that we talked about early on, when God said to Adam, one day your children are going to have to leave home, leave your mother and father's enclave, and then attach themselves to a woman, and they're going to be a family. And this is exactly what this happened over here. Isaac, as long as he didn't have a wife, still held on to those memories of Sarah, and held on and held on and held on. And it was probably in a certain way was holding him back, and now when Rebecca comes into his life, what a woman could do for you, Ezer Kenegdo. She's a wonderful, wonderful helper for you. And one of the things that Isaac needed at this moment was some comfort. And Rebecca was able to give this to him. And in the best circumstances, when you can find a spouse, when you can find a partner that is there, that is going to support you in your time of need, and is going to make you a better person, and is going to elevate you and inspire you, this is the best thing in the world. This is the way God created the world, and if you can find someone to spend the rest of your life with, which doesn't always mean that it's always going to be bliss, it's always going to be happiness, always. But if the person is going to be there to support you, like Rivka was there, so the Medrash tells us, the Talmud tells us that Sarah had many miracles happen. She had a cloud of glory that covered her tent. When Rebecca came into Sarah's tent, the cloud reappeared. It came back. When another thing that she had candles, Shabbos candles. Now, at another time we'll talk about why Sarah lit Shabbos candles, but she had Shabbos candles that burned from Friday to Friday. Now Rebecca came, it reappeared. So everything that Sarah had in her tent, everything that was going on in the house, Rebecca was able to step into that role as being now the new matriarch of the Jewish people. And this is a tremendous blessing, that Abraham and Isaac got. That God created already someone, because this is an experiment that could have vanished in a moment. This Judaism, it wasn't strong. It didn't have roots. As a matter of fact, all of the people that Abraham had beforehand converted to what we would call Judaism left after Abraham died. There was no one left. How do we know this? How do we know? Because it tells us in the Talmud that Abraham and Sarah went around and made adherents to Judaism, made many converts. He brought converts in, she brought converts in. So you would think at this time, because of his charisma, he was well known, he was a celebrity, Abraham. Everywhere he went, miracles happened. Remember in Egypt, they took Sarah, God put a plague on them. He fought with the kings, he won the war, he everything. He was a world renowned. And people converted to Judaism. What happened afterwards? As soon as Abraham died, oh, I called for the music, by the way. It's dramatic. It's dramatic. So what happened right after Abraham dies? They all disappear. How do we know that they all disappeared? Because when Jacob went down to Egypt, who went with him? Nobody except the Jacobsons. That was it. It was the Jacobsons and no one else. It was just the Jacobsons family. So all of the people that Abraham had brought closer, what would happen to them? They all disappeared because they were skin deep. Their belief was skin deep because they didn't really believe in Judaism. They believed in Abraham. They loved Abraham. They didn't believe in the idea of this. So here, Rebecca was created and sent into the world to keep this experiment going and to strengthen this experiment because it's it could like a flame. But this is the thing. So let's go back in just a second and talk about the trait of what Eliezer was looking for. What was Eliezer looking for? There's one word for this: loving kindness. Loving kindness. In Hebrew, we have a word that's called chesed, kindness. That's it. That's what she did. That's what she did. She was kind to him. Nothing more, nothing less to a stranger. There was a fellow, Stephen Carter, who was a professor at Yale University, wrote a book called Civility. It's all about being civil, living in a world that's civil. We in the United States of America, we live in a very non-homogeneous society. Last 2 weeks ago, I was in Poland. Poland's a very homogeneous society. You don't see many foreigners in Poland. They close their borders, and that's the way it goes. Poland is for Poles. Now they let in 100,000 Ukrainians from the war, but they're not happy about it. They're not happy about it. Okay? Here in the United States of America, we live in a multicultural world. Especially here in California, there's all different kinds of people going over here. So chesed, loving kindness, is a very important trait. Extremely. So Stephen Carter wrote this book called Civility. How we should live in a multicultural world as civil people, just as civil, and to be able to get along. And he writes an interesting story, very interesting story. And this is such a lesson in our lives. Okay, he's African American. When he was a young kid, he's one of 5. And his father and mother moved him to Washington D.C., but not to the city of Washington D.C., to the suburbs of Washington D.C. And he still remembers how. Lona, maybe you just close it. No, you don't have to go. You just close up. Jay, just. Okay, you better. Okay. I hope it's nothing I said. Okay. So Stephen Carter is telling the story that he's a young kid. They move into this suburb of Washington D.C. It's predominantly white. They're the only black family on the block. He still remembers sitting on the stoop. No one saying hello. People walk by, people walk by, people walk by, people walk by. No one acknowledges them. They're completely invisible. And he begins to realize what it means to be a black family in a white suburb. So one day, this woman comes by and says, "How you guys are sitting on the stoop? How you guys doing?" "Huh? So someone recognized them. Interesting. Not only did she say hello to them, she went to her house, she made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, still remembers, and she came across the street, and she said, "I want to give you, enjoy the jelly, the peanut butter." He said at that moment, his life changed. Okay? Think about this for a second. At that moment, his life changed, he writes, because at that moment he saw that, they could be accepted. That there are people in the world, not only that they're going to look at us invisible, but there are good people in the world, civil people in the world. What was the name of that lady? He writes in the book. Her name was Sarah Kestenbaum. Okay? Sarah Kestenbaum. What do you think she was? A Jewish lady? She was a Jewish lady. Later, he interviewed her, and she, and unfortunately, he writes in the book that she passed away young. But he writes in the book that they began to know the Kesed and bounds, and this was just a simple act of civility. That's all it was. A simple act of civility changed a young boy's life. One act of being of kindness changed a young boy's life. We always talk years and years and years ago. I remember once, we were talking, and Jack had brought up the issue. We were talking about people's legacy. About what do we want to be known for? What do we want to be remembered for? And everybody of us, it's no secret, none of us are going to live forever. Hopefully Mashiach is going to come. We will say, but none of us are going to live forever. We're all going to, go to the heaven, one day. And what is our family going to do? Our family is going to put up a stone. Okay, and on the stone, what is it going to say? Mr. 1931 to 2031. But between that and that, what do you have? A dash. And what's the most important part of the tombstone? Is it the birthday? Is it the year that you were born? No. Is it the year that you died? Also not. What's the most important part of the dash? The dash is the most important part of that tombstone, because there, in that dash, of all the years that you were here in the world, how many times did you do a civil act? How many times did you do things? As a matter of fact, it's interesting. If you go back, the word chesed, for people that translated Hebrew to English, there was no word in English to translate chesed. The word loving kindness that we now say about chesed, that's a new phenomena. That's only around the 200 or 300 years, that concept of loving kindness. Chesed. And that means chesed is not a quid pro quo. You see, we all live lives of quid pro quo. Yeah. You do me a favor, Jay's going to come to my house to fix my computer, so I'm going to have to let him into the class. I mean, what am I going to do? Because, he did me a favor, so I'm going to have to do him a favor. That's called, you scratch my back, I'll scratch your back. That's what we're talking about. That's not chesed. Okay, that's not chesed. What chesed is what Rivka exemplified. What Rivka did to a total stranger that came down where she had nothing. What did she have with the guy? She didn't know that the guy's on a mission, to marry her off to a rich guy. He could have been nothing, a bum.
He could have been a hostile.
Exactly. He could have been nothing. The natural reaction would have been, well, get away from me, what's wrong with you? You're not handicapped. You get your own water. But she didn't. She didn't do that. She performed an act of chesed, of loving kindness to a person. And that trait was most important to Abraham, more than anything else. Yitzchak, on the other hand, was not such a loving kindness. And I'll tell you, Abraham we talked about this a number of times, where Abraham exemplified pure goodness. He didn't care who you were. He extended his goodness even for the people in Sodom. Even in the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, he went and he started to plead for them. Who would plead for these people? You know what kind of people these people were? You know why God got upset? I don't remember if we went through, when we talked about the people of Sodom. The last thing that God couldn't take it was this young girl was feeding this poor man. They found out that she was helping this poor innocent person. They took her, they stripped her, they covered her with honey, and they tied her to a tree next to a beehive. Okay? This was the people of Sodom and Gomorrah. Imagine that. The cruelty of this. So what does Abraham do? Abraham pleads for them. Think about this. It reminds me when 2 weeks ago, I know I didn't talk much about last week about my trip to Poland, because hopefully that if you followed me on Facebook, we did a whole podcast, me and Chayalei, about the trip. But one of the things was about the cruelty of the Nazis. Besides the fact that you kill 6 million innocent people, that's cruel enough. That you don't have to go further than that. But you want to know about cruelty? So the cruelty, what cruelty is, we went to Majdanek, which was a labor/death camp. Okay, it was in Lublin. Majdanek is intact. It's intact. The crematorium is still there. The gas chambers are still there. The dressing rooms are still there. You could literally walk through the camp, and God forbid, you can just hook up the gas. You know, I'm telling you, that's the difference between Auschwitz. Auschwitz was pretty much destroyed. Majdanek is still intact. You come into the crematorium, which is a room for one purpose, to burn the dead bodies. That's all. So you have oven, and the Jews that were on the work detail had to take the bodies from the gas chambers, you know, with wheelbarrows. Now later on they built this little train, little rail thing that they can push like a thing, and the burning there. You come in there and you're standing and you're thinking to yourself, okay, you know what, this is horror. Horror. You're in an evil place, and then the tour guide says, take a look around behind that wall. And there's a wall, and you look around, there's a bath. There's a bathtub there. You know what's a bathtub? The commandant of Majdanek wrote to his superiors, look, you know, we're heating up the gas chambers, the crematorium anyways, so we have, you know, fire. I'd like to make a bath. They allowed him to put up. So every night, he would take a hot bath while the people were burning the bodies. While the Jews were burning the bodies, this man was sitting and taking a hot bath. I mean, imagine this. Imagine in your wildest imagination you can. This was the people of Sodom. Yet what did Abraham do? Abraham, when God said to him, I'm going to destroy Sodom, Abraham should have said, hey, you know what? It's about time. Yeah, it's about time. Well, you know, what were you waiting for? He didn't do that. What did he do? He pleaded for them. He says, come on, you're going to kill the innocent with the wicked. If there's innocent people there, you have to spare them. And then the wicked, you know, this is like, imagine if God came to someone and says, you know what, I'm going to kill all the Nazis. And you say to him, really? All the Nazis? Maybe there's a few good Nazis. You know, maybe there was a Nazi that saved a Jewish person. Maybe there was a Nazi that helped a few people. You're going to kill all the Nazis? Because, you know, I mean, would anyone say that? I would say, not only kill them, but before you kill them, make them suffer before you kill them. I mean, you know, don't just kill them. Why should Hitler die with a bullet in his head? You know, no. That was Abraham. Because Abraham exemplified this idea of kindness, pure kindness. Isaac was different. Isaac was much more discerning, because Isaac's job was to dig wells. We find in this week's portion we're going to read, he was a well digger. What's a well digger mean? Means that down inside the ground there is some goodness. But how do you get there? You got to work at it. Inside every person, Isaac saw some goodness, but he wouldn't let you off the hook. See, Abraham would say, come on, let's have a meal. Let's get together. No problem. Isaac said, no. You want a meal? Let's go. Let's get work for it. Let's go. Let's dig a well. Let's get together. Let's go. Let's do this together. And therefore, Isaac needed someone with this kindness, yin and yang, you know, with this kindness like Rivka had, who would exemplify all of those values from Abraham. I've mentioned once, and we're about to finish. I've mentioned once and many times that the stories that we talk about, the lessons that we talk about, are not historical. I'm not interested in a 3,500 year. Marcy, don't forget, I remember you wanted to ask a question, but I'm on a roll. Don't let him. Don't stop him. He's on a roll. Okay. So 3,500 years ago, this happened. That's not what we're interested in. We're interested in what we could learn in our lives. We are the Bnei Avram, Yitzchak, and Yankov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, Valeah. We are the progeny of these people. We are now entrusted that the values that these people had and brought into the world, we're going to exemplify. We are going to be the ones that are going to be the water carriers for God in this world. Is it an easy job? No, it's not an easy job. Has it been easy for us, for Jewish people? No, it has not been easy for us, for Jewish people, because morality and ethics are not always valued. When you want to be a good person and just be left alone, just like now we have today a country called Israel. All it wants to do is just to be left alone. Could you imagine if Israel would be left alone? Israel can feed the entire world.
Yes.
What's going on now in Israel, the agricultural advances that these scientists are doing in Israel with food, with plants, could literally feed the entire world if the world would just let them be. If you just would let them be. And just say, you know what, instead of using your best minds to figure out how we're going to blow up cell phones. I mean, think about that. Think of what it took to pull off the cell phone caper. You know what? The months before you had to make a company and sell them the cell phones because it's a Jewish thing. Make a few bucks before you do it. Make a few dollars. Sell them the beepers and then blow up the beepers. You had geniuses figuring this out. Think if the world would just let us be, these same people that have to now figure out how we're going to blow up a guy in Tehran, how we're going to destroy the nuclear capabilities of Iran. All of these people could use their minds to better the world, but they won't let us. They won't let us. Okay, you know what? Don't worry. Gamzu Yaver, we shall overcome this as well. Okay, Mitzvah Hashem, the peace treaty should hold. And then you know what? It's better, less carbonis, less sacrifices on our side is better. Now we have to get the hostages home and hope that Netanyahu makes a deal to bring every one of them home safe and sound, and the soldiers should be safe because that's it. This is who we are. We are those standard bearers. We are the ones that when someone comes and says to us, can I drink? What do I say? Not only will you drink, but I'm going to feed your family. When you went back to to places where we're from, whether it's Rhodes or Poland or what it is, you know what the Jewish towns were like? Every Jewish town had a Chevra Kaddish, had a burial society, and every had a Gemilas Chasodim, and every town had organizations that went out and helped people. Not only Jewish people, helped others as well. Others as well, because why? Because that's what's demanded of us. That's what makes us the Jewish people. Because we follow in the footsteps of Rebecca. When Rebecca says to him, I will feed you, I will feed your poor. This is it. When there's a tragedy around the world, just watch this. God forbid there's a tragedy in the world. You know who's one of the first people that are there? Luxembourg. I'm joking. You ever see Luxembourg at a tragedy? There's something going on in Haiti. You ever see Luxembourg show up? I'm nothing against Luxembourg. I'm sure they're very nice people in Luxembourg. They don't show up. You know who else doesn't show up? Most people. You know who does show up? Israel. A small little country, of 10 million people show up. There's an earthquake, there's a tsunami, there's a this, there's a that with the rescue teams. What do we have over there? What's our business over there? Because we care. Because this is part of our DNA. When someone says to us, feed us, help us, 92 countries, people from 92 countries live in Israel today. Imagine that. We have been able to integrate different societies from 92 different countries. As far as the United States and Ethiopia, Russia, and who knows where else. All over the world come and live in Israel. If they would only allow us to live in peace, we can do better than we do now. God should bless them. God should bless us. We should walk in the footsteps of our patriarchs and our matriarchs. Let us live up to their expectations. Not that we're going to be like them. That's not what God wants. God doesn't want us to be like Rebecca or Isaac. They were incredibly holy and spiritual people. God wants us to do the best that we can. Reb Zusha Vanapol, one of the great Hasidic masters, said that when I die and I go to heaven, they're not going to ask me, why weren't you like Abraham, Isaac, or Jacob? They're going to ask me, why weren't you like Zusha? What did he mean? He meant that God gave me certain values, God gave me certain traits. Why don't I use it to the maximum? Let's go out there, use it to the maximum. Next week next time I'll do. Sorry, Marcy, but I have to give you a chance to ask your question.
I'll ask after.
You'll ask afterwards, okay. I want to wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving. Remember, with Thanksgiving is all about gratitude. So please, if you can share with someone, if you can share and invite someone to your home that wouldn't have a Thanksgiving, So I want to wish everybody a Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is a value that we appreciate. Gratitude, that we're thrilled. And I have to say that the Jewish community in the United States is very thankful to the people of the United States. I think this is an exceptional country. They are exceptional people, the Americans. They've allowed us in. They've given us freedom that we've never had, like in who knows when, since when. So we're always thankful for this country. It's a wonderful country. We pray for this country. We pray for the welfare of this country. We pray for the wisdom of its leaders to do the right thing. God bless America. Tell you, we thank this country for being here. Anyways, I'm going to let the people on the Facebook world go, so Marcy can ask her question. Until next time, have a wonderful, wonderful day.